Tech Heroes, and once again, we're going to go through the Roll20. We're going to add a character today, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave comments. That will improve my analytics so more people can um, see this video, and it will promote it to the top of searches and so forth. And don't forget, if you wish to support this, there will be a link to Patreon down below in doobly-doo, the description below. First off, we're going to click the Emerald City Champions, since that's going to be the campaign we're going to work on. And after you create it, you get this page and you click Launch Game. After a couple of quick moments, the screen will look like this, and you go up to what looks like a folded up newspaper, the third icon from the left, and you go Add, and you go Character. In this example, we're going to add Ogre, and let's see, and we're going to upload his picture. And while doing that, it's only going to be in my journal, and it only can be edited by me. And then you go Save. Then you go to your character sheet, and there he is. You can put his alternate identity in here and so forth, but before you can do any of that, you got to click on the edit button there, and you can start entering his alternate identity. Player's name, it's going to be you put GM or NPC. The first thing you'll enter is the characteristics, and you enter them under the base values, which will change the values on the left side of the character sheet. If you're using a source such as 6th edition Champions role-playing game book, which has the statistics in there, just put the values in as listed, because this is not a character sheet where you can build your character, because it doesn't give you total points or anything like that. So whatever the values stated on the character sheet, or on, if you're using Hero Designer, use those values directly. You could copy and paste from a PDF, but the values are so small, like they're only 2 digits. It's just better just to copy them directly, and I will do that for Ogre now. As you can see, I typed in all the characteristic values from the character sheet, and you see here all the values are the same as the base, which is the manual entry. The next thing you go into is the vital information. You can adjust. It gives you how much damage he does, lift, endurance costs, and so forth for strength. As far as you can adjust the endurance use for normal, half, or 0 endurance. And it also gives his presence stack based on his base presence. So all that remains the same. We don't adjust any of those, so we're going to go into movement. And the only adjustment here we have is the leap, which is 46 meters for him. And you'll have to give him the standard non-combat, which is ×2, which you will do that and adjust the vertical leap accordingly. We went ahead and made the adjustments for his non-combat, which is 92 meters, and his vertical leap, which is half that, which is 23 meters normally, or 46 non-combat. If he had other movements like teleport or whatever, you just hit add and you enter the amount and so forth. The modify button is so if you have multiple like teleport, flight, and whatever you want to move up and down to kind of sort things out, then that's what the modify is for. Next part here is your charges and reserves. If you had any charges, you would click add and enter it here, and you put in what the refill is, like if it's bullets or whatever, if it's six charge recharge or whatever. The current is how many he has currently, which you have a maximum at the start of the game, and then your max, which is the total amount of charges. We'll get into that more when we get to powers. Below that is your senses. If he has any bonus to senses, you put that here, like +2, you enter 2, which Ogre does not have. And he has any enhanced senses, you just go add here, and you'd enter it here, like infrared vision, Henry vision, so forth. Okay, we're going to scroll back up to the top here, and we're going to go to the combat tab and click on combat, and this has your combat information. We're just going to focus on entering a character. We'll do combat and so forth in another video. Now, if he has any combat skill levels, you add them here. Or if he has martial maneuvers, you add them on under attacks and maneuvers, which Ogre does not have, but he does have combat skill levels. When it comes to skill levels, unfortunately, you have to enter for each level. Now, Ogre has 3 hand-to-hand levels, so we're going to have to put hand-to-hand 3 times on here, 1 for each level. Because when I play him, I can play him with just putting 1 level on OCV or 2 on, of course, 3. Typically, he is like totally offensive monster, of course, so I'll default clicking the OCV because that's what he's more likely going to put the levels on. And if he decides to use them, you click the boxes to the left of that for each level he gets to use. If he has penalty skill levels, you would go to penalty skill levels here in the bottom corner, and you would add and enter them appropriately for range modifiers, OCV or DCV. And then we scroll back up again, and we're going to do powers. And to do those, you click add, and if you have the character sheet, you just copy and paste over. Like we have room sweeper here for Ogre, and I just copy it over from the character sheet. Of course, you can always, as you can see on this room sweeper ability, it has a advantage on it for 65 strength. And you hit the little gear here, and though it does affect the strength, it doesn't really affect the character sheet so much. So you just enter the total amount that it costs, which is 13 points. And it just gives them the area effect on strength. And you would just go, when you do in combat, you just go to core, and then you go down and do your strength damage. And you'll click on that, and it will give you your damage for your area effect attack. It's just do an area effect on that. We're going to do the rest for the rest of the powers here on the character sheet. And we have the powers listed here. The only ones we didn't list is his super strong legs, which gives him leaping, which we already did in the core tab. And then we're gonna add the tunneling to the core tab as well for his super strength smash through. And his animalistic senses we'll put on the core as well under sense. On his first de-evolution body, it's his PD/ED is hardened. You just enter the total points it's worth, so then you don't have to mess with advantages and so forth in the character sheet, because it just affects his defenses against armor piercing, which is just a mechanic. And then on the resistant, you do have to hit the gear here, and you click on the ability pull down here, and you scroll down to it says RPD and RED, and you put the appropriate bonus, which is 30, and then we do RED. Because these are separate windows, they do not show up on here on the video, but you see it pops up RED, and the ED is 24, pardon me. All right, and then you just click it again, and you're good to go on the gear. Then you're good. And then now we go to his super strength smash through, which is a movement power because it's tunneling, and you just put it here. It's tunneling, so we just copy paste that through. We just go add, and then it's 1 meter. And it's non-combat, so it stays at 1 meter. Then his enhanced senses, which is his animalistic sense of +2 to all sense groups. Since for all sense groups, you just go under the perception roll and increase the increment to +2. There's a few things about powers you need to know before you can continue on like other different types of characters. For instance, we'll take a look here so you get a chance. So we'll just add a new power just to make it simple. If you're going to do any power, it's going to be based off your base value. Let's say you have a 10d6 energy blast. Let's just go something simple like 50. And you put in your advantage and limitations appropriately. You can either type it up here, or you can just use the up and down arrows. Now, these are all done in decimal form. So if it's a quarter advantage, it's 0.25, not 1/4. But in this example, we're just doing a straight up attack, okay? Now, if it's in a multi-power, you would put it in the framework here appropriately. If you will label it a pool, if it's the multi-power pool, if it's the variable slot, fixed slot, or it belongs to a variable power pool, or it's a variable power pool slot. Okay, and then you name the framework. Mental powers, attack powers, whatever you want to name the framework, which typically is whatever you have it on your character sheet. And then down below that is if it costs less or more endurance, if it has a fixed endurance amount, which we'll figure out automatically, but if it differs from your character sheet, you can just put a numeric value here of the actual endurance, and then you place if it goes through in a reserve or endurance or both, because when you use the power in the character sheet, you'll click expend endurance and it will take the endurance out of the appropriate thing. Like if it's a reserve, it take out reserve. If it's under your regular endurance, takes it out of endurance. If it does both, it will take it out of your reserve first, and then it'll take it out of your standard endurance. And then the reserve name, that's the name of your endurance reserve when you put it in the character sheet. The auto here, whenever you click pay endurance at the combat section of your character sheet, it will take the endurance out automatically. As discussed before, any ability increases, such as characteristics, characteristic role, skill levels, so forth, can be put in here. And the skill levels are in here mainly because, like weapons, gives you a bonus to your skill. Now, if it's an attack power, you click this box here to activate the attack box here, and it will figure it out automatically with the auto config here under the wizard. You click the pull down, and we're going to do blast. We're going to do blast. Okay, as you can see, it does the 10 dice 6. It's against the OCV. It does stun and body, and it costs 5 points per die. Fairly simple. Now, if you are making a weapon, let's say it's a club, what have you, or a sword, you can also do strength minimum. You click the strength button, strength box here, you enter the strength minimum, and if it's killing attack like a sword, you can click killing, or if you do hand killing attack in the pull down, it will automatically put it as killing. Now, if this has extra points or dice that the character sheet does not calculate for you, you can enter it manually here under extra points and dice. And custom dice is it overrides whatever the total dice amount is. The final part is activation. If it's like a spell, you can put whatever the roll you need to activate it, or if it requires a roll. Anything requires a roll can go here. Additional action is anything additional the character has to do, like incantations or gestures. You can put that here if you so desire. And custom action is exactly that. It's whatever extra notes you want to put for that, and it just will show up when you do your attack. Now, if you're using an endurance reserve, like mentioned above, you put the name of the reserve here, whatever you want to call it. You can call it END reserve, END res, and if you put it here, you also have to do the same under the core part here. And it goes under your charges and reserve. You just call it END res, and then it will recognize it, and you do it appropriately. Your refill is whatever the recovery on the reserve is, like 5, and let's say it carries 50 endurance, which 50 would be its current, and 50 would be its max when you start the game. So anytime you use and you pay endurance, it will automatically do so in the reserve. We'll go into more detail about this in the combat video. As we go down his character sheet in the book, the next thing is skills. We already did his 3 hand-to-hand, which is plus 3 hand-to-hand, which is under combat. Double check it's here. And then we go to skills. He only has 1 skill, and that's knowledge of the superhuman world, which we can just copy and paste over. And this is an 8 or less. It's not based on a characteristic, so you can either use the pull down, which gives the characteristic, or non-characteristic, which is 8 or less, or you can type it in as well. And there it is. The next thing on Ogre's character sheet is his complications, and that's under the background tab. Click on background. Has height, weight, all that fun stuff. And we go down to manage complications. Fairly simple. Just put total amount of the complication, which is 30, and just copy and paste it over. Which you also can do from Hero Designer as well. You can just use the copy feature and just go Control V. One thing you have to know about this is when you take it out of edit, it's going to condense, it's going to cut stuff off and such. And the easy way you can tell how much is cut off is based on what it says here. because in some instances it expands to encompass everything, like in powers, but in complications it does not. You see that the recover is cut off here. What I normally do is I just will highlight that and I would cut and then add another line and do like 3 spaces and just do Control V and add it there. Then we have a 15-point biological complication. And since all these are complications, if the GM so desires, if you go to the front, you see that's cut off too. You can just cut complication part off if you want, or you can abbreviate psi if that's your preference. But I like trying to keep it the same as on the character sheet in case someone else wants to play Ogre as a player character. And you just do the same on the rest of it. And once we're finished with that, we'll scroll back up on the character sheet here, and we'll do his points, which is 400 total. He has no experience, or spent or unspent. Then you just copy over his appearance and powers tactics directly from the background information and add the physical statistics as you like. And that will conclude entering the character sheet in Roll20 for Hero System or Champions. And just as a reminder, if you haven't done Roll20 before, this automatically saves as you enter everything, which is great. It's one of the bonuses of Roll20 is that it saves as it goes along. So you don't have to go Control S or anything like that to save anything because it saves it automatically. And thank you for watching the video. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment and a like if you so desire. And in the doobly-doo, the description below will be a link to Patreon to improve this channel so we can get better audio and video and get some more bells and whistles to make this a better experience for you. And don't forget, be a hero.